Hi everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining us for another Monday afternoon sofa safari. We've been looking forward to your company all week. Hope you've had a wonderful weekend and ready to go. It's been action-packed from our side already today. We've had a lot on the go and excited that now it's come time for our live sofa safari and we can hopefully bring it all to you. So looking forward to that. Brad on the front.
Afternoon, folks.
And he's mixing it there with a lot of general game down in the riverbed. There's some baboons ahead of us. They're up in the trees. And we've had some very good tracks for elephants in the area. And we've been very busy out on foot for the last little while following tracks for a female leopard, still coming up to where we've started off now. So let's see, maybe we get lucky and we get her maybe moving around this area. So it's a lovely part of the reserve down on the Sand River, and beautiful tranquil scenes at the moment. Baboons starting to come down from the trees, maybe perhaps join the rest of the troop in the riverbed. Can hear some cracking branches from the elephants not too far away. So I think we'll take a little bit of a drive through this area, see if we can find them, and then later on we're going to hand over to the other team. Ryan, Brad and Brandon, they're ready and waiting for us for a bit later on. So yeah, lovely to have your company. Let's get going and see what we can find.
Let's do this.
Take it nice and easy past these baboons. Sometimes they can spook, but if we go nice and easy through here, maybe they'll stick around and we can get a good view of them. See them playing in the trees here, Brad? Right up at the top of the trees. Look at these guys. Mom and baby, last to come down the tree. And then kicking up the dust as they run off into the sun.
Oh, we can follow a bit.
It sounds like some of the youngsters weren't too happy about being pulled out of the trees. There's lovely fruiting jackalberries, so I guess they're all up in the trees now, making the most of the bounty here of the jackalberry fruit, which is very tasty and sweet. We make a jam from it, and the impala, the baboons that we've seen already, the nyala, many animals will benefit from it. It has that specific name because, in fact, even we find the seeds in the jackal dung, so they don't miss out on a little snack, and we see those seeds after what they've been feeding on these fallen fruits. Baboons up in the tree will often be quite messy with the way they feed and drop down a lot, and so that's where the antelope move around underneath the tree, and those jackals as well, to a certain extent.
Very difficult for us to get a hold of those berries.
Well, they're all gone by the time we even realize it. So, yeah, the animals don't miss a trick.
Very rarely tasted a ripe jackalberry.
See them moving away now across the riverbed there. Probably feeding on the roots or the rhizomes from the reed beds. Lots of other vegetation down in the river to keep them occupied. You can see a little baby on mum's back, hitching a ride, staying close to mom.
The go-away bird calling behind us.
That was very clear and distinct. Hey, go away. So sometimes they can alarm and bring attention to a predator around, and like I said before, the young female leopard that we've been following tracks of was coming up into this area. We'll pay attention to all these kind of warning sounds, not least of which the go-away bird up here somewhere.
The group of impala looks quite relaxed over here.
See all the males on the right. Not a bachelor herd, but they seem to have all grouped up together. All the females are crossing the road up to the front of us here in front of Brad. All the females over there together. Ram, you can see, is just rubbing his forehead. Glands in his forehead there on the tree. Perhaps a 2-year-old. Quite a few youngsters from the last lambing season in this little group here. You can always tell by the growth, the size of the horns. They start to develop that first curve after the first year and a bit. Up until then, they're still quite slender and more straightforward in shape.
Tracks and a couple of giraffe tracks also going this way.
One point of note here, although we were very busy right up until a minute before we crossed to you with the leopard tracks coming into this area, the fact that there's a lot of presence of baboons here might mean that she's ducked away and maybe taken a different route. We were literally right here with our last tracks. Maybe she's gone into a bit of hiding once she sensed the activity of the baboons up ahead of her. Nice fresh tracks on top of elephant tracks. And even the elephant tracks were very fresh, so I think we'll take a little loop around here. Brad?
Yeah.
So,
Sounds like a plan.
the elephant tracks on the road here, just ahead of us. Some of these are coming the other way. We've got a glimpse of a few of them ahead of us. There goes the go-away bird again. You said you had some fresh giraffe tracks here as well.
Yeah, going more south.
Couple of valleys here over to our left-hand side, and then a few more around the corner here. These valleys are a bit difficult to see, they're into the sun. Right in the distance there. Hyena in the mix as well. I think we can try and get a bit closer to these alleys up here, right? Like he's greeting you there, the ears coming out. Spot the giraffe, eh?
Yeah, a youngish male just staring into the strange line. He's busy chewing his cud, so I'm not too sure if there's anything there. He's probably just chilling.
There's another one behind here. Should we try and get just around here and view this other one?
Smaller one that side.
Yeah. Maybe we have a slightly better angle for this alley here. And we can perhaps get a shot of the giraffe in the background as well.
Quite a few there actually.
It's a pretty gnarly tree that he's feeding on. The acacias. Those long white spines. He's using his trunk to it, twisting it around the branch and then just pulling it down with the tusk there. Perhaps they're developing a favoritism or a tendency for one or the other tusk. You'll often see the wear and tear on the tusk like that. Well, after some heavy use over time, they develop grooves or abrasions on one particular tusk as they favor that over the other. Does not mind getting really stuck in, hey Brad?
Yeah.
They've got these very long eyelashes, and that helps them just as a bit of a tactile sensory mechanism. They can feel their way through a heavy set or a thorny bush and help to protect the eyes with those long eyelashes, just feeling their way into a thorny bush.
also quite nice this time of the year. Some of the bigger bulls especially. You can see this tree on the left is a small tree that was pushed over. And some of these bigger trees do get pushed over by these ellies, and they'll eat a bit and leave, and then of course the other animals have got a chance to get to those leaves that they couldn't reach. So while they're feeding inadvertently, they're also helping other animals get to those hard to reach spots.
Absolutely true, and as Brad's saying, it also obviously brings more fodder, more foliage, food down to a reachable height for their young as well, for the elephant, the youngsters. Perhaps not able to reach up high into a taller tree, but certainly onto a tree down at this ground level.
Some of the males almost seem to do it for brownie points with the females too. Right?
Yeah, that's just showing off. That's typical of most species. So see in the background, the attention of the giraffe has been drawn further to its eastern side across from us. There's actually quite a few of them moving around here, so he spotted a part of his group coming over to join him. There's even some right ahead of you, Brad, coming out of the drainage line here. So the elephants and the giraffe are meeting up here for a bit of a feeding session. He's got his ear slightly half-cocked, listening for something. Eh? Perhaps the movement of the giraffe down in the drainage just surprised him and he's come away from that area. Up on the crest there. The rest of the giraffes are moving through. We'll see what kind of a view we have from here, and otherwise we might just move around to where we can get closer to them.
There's a leopard sneaking around here as well.
The possibility is quite high. All the other ellies seem to have drifted up south of us here. Even from this distance, we can see how distinct the back of the head of the giraffe is, the white ears. They stand out in quite a nice contrast against the tawny color of the body and the background foliage as well. Okay, I think whether it was the giraffe or something else sneaking around down in the drainage line, I'm not sure, but
Look at that ellie.
yeah. handshake of the elephant. So probably just questioning our tactics here while we're going back and forth around him. Quite happily feeding away there. Let's leave him in peace then. It seems like he might want to carry on feeding on that occasion. Just through here on the other side of the dip. Approach this young bull nice and gently. You can see he's developing the lumps and bumps on the head just behind the ossicones. Not yet fully mature, I would say, although you can see the balding patches on the tips of those what we refer to as horns. So, others that have very bony protrusions make the most of that heavier weight on the head, and they use that as a club for fighting. So he's getting up there with the higher ranked members of this group, I'm sure.
He's a mature bull now.
There we can see, yes, a bit further ahead.
Coming out, yeah.
Stewie, there's a question there, sort of lifespan of giraffe and how old this one possibly is.
Well, textbook will put it at about 24 plus years. So an average lifespan, I would estimate somewhere around the mid-20s as a ballpark figure. I'd say this particular male is probably coming up towards the late teens, perhaps. Certainly mature, but not perhaps as old as some of the other bigger bulls further ahead of us. But yeah, I'd say late teens for him and mid-20s, pushing on a bit for their general lifespan. We'll see if we can get ahead to some of the others that are slowly coming out of the Tambuti stands here. Young elephant bulls all still straggling behind the main herd that we left just behind us. These are all males. in terms of the giraffe. Similar sort of age. And then the one that was walking away from us as we came up to this threesome is slightly younger than them. So yeah, it seems to be a gathering of bulls from what I've seen. Hey, Brad?
Yeah. Mostly, yeah.
There. Yeah. A baby elephant here together with the other one just in front of us. So let's see if maybe they are also slowly, gradually moving up towards the rest of the herd behind us. The ubiquitous oxpecker always accompanying a lot of your larger mammal species, the antelopes and giraffe, buffalo. Right on the top of the horn, Brad.
Yeah. Nice height advantage there.
You have a look here. This young elephant is fairly curious and moving up towards us. Probably the sound of our voices has attracted him. Just here beyond Brad. Possibly coming to join this one, so let's see. We've got space in front of us. Doesn't come towards us, but I just want to reposition the vehicle slightly. Elephants are such strongly socially bonded creatures. They always enjoy feeding in another's presence and always very curious when they come up to another member of the herd, find out what they've been feeding on and see if there are any choice bits left over for them. You often see them putting the trunk up, just as that youngster's doing now. Being very cheeky and trying to steal.
He got it.
How cheeky is that? I'll have some of what you've got.
Stu, there's a question of animal behavior with our presence, and will Mom be upset with our presence?
Well, looking possible that this might be Mom. In which case this female is not showing us any signs of any distress at all. She's even happy enough to come even closer to us, and the youngster here in Mom's presence, I'm sure will be quite happy to move past us as well. I suppose it all depends on our approach, how we move into a sighting, how respectful we are to the presence of the animals and their movements, and by understanding a bit more of their behavior, we can judge the right moments to be in amongst a herd of elephants in this case, or giraffe, and when perhaps it's better that we move away and give them more space. So it's also down to a bit of our experience, our skills, just to try and understand the behavior they're giving off and whether or not we would be accepted in their presence. And yeah, I think for the most part our approach is always a respectful one. And whoop, giraffe are on the move. That's the female elephant just moving into where they were feeding, so I think they're making way for her. Yeah, but just looking at the behavior of these animals, and I mean, we were parked here, stationary, still quiet, and this elephant is very happy just to continue coming up towards us. So this sighting is on this animal's terms. If it wanted to move away or not be welcoming of our presence, he wouldn't have come up this close.
Nice mud still caked on their bodies from earlier in the day.
Guys, there's another question about how old do we think the baby is, and is it weaned?
No, I don't think it's fully weaned yet. They do take quite a long time to fully wean off. Often we could look at the eruption of the tusks that would just start to show. Just start to show at about 4 years old. So I think this youngster still perhaps got a couple of years still to be weaned off fully, but still taking solids at the moment. Probably been doing that for a year or two already. Where's your hyena, Brad?
We could put that side.
Okay.
Probably down in the drainage by now.
We got a log in front of us?
No. There's this. There it was.
No, this one.
Still kind of looking in that direction.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Perhaps heard us.
Oh, seems that this is the place to be. Can't help but noticing the go-away birds calling again. Reposition so you guys can get a good view.
Female.
Yeah, ever the opportunist coming into the area, perhaps also hearing some of the alarm calls, a lot of movement with animals moving through the area, these giraffe, the elephants. You never know if they might flush a predator. And of course this time of the day probably just starting to get a bit more active and start to get ready to patrol. So what do we do when we've woken up from a nice long sleep and we're getting ready to head out for work? These are the daily ablutions.
Also caught that attention of the giraffe down the road. Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that bull hasn't moved for the entire time we've been here. He's certainly been on the lookout. Just realized he's being watched. Beautiful. So there's a perfect example, just to come back to that question from before. Elephant wasn't too happy with the presence of the hyena, and there you saw some very typical behavior. It was fairly obvious. The ears are outspread, a bit of a shake of the head, and a bit of a grunt there. So just moving that hyena on with a little bit of displeasure. So some very typical and obvious signs that we could pick up on. And you know, if that's ever directed at us, then that's the point where we decide perhaps it's time that we give them more space and move on. So always respectful of what the animal's intentions are. Right, well, I think what we'll do, carry on, see what we can find, and then I'm just going to check in and see what the other team are up to. And who knows, maybe we will be able to pick up on those female leopard tracks, and maybe we'll have something for you a bit later. So we'll work on that. In the meantime, I'm just going to see if we can hand you over to the other team for a little while.
Alrighty, perfect. Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to part 2 of our afternoon sofa safari. Once again, sitting with Tom, Brandon on the front there, and Ryan behind the camera this afternoon. I hope you guys enjoyed that little opening sequence there with the other guys along the river. Obviously, always a beautiful start to the afternoon. We are sat quite a way north from them at this stage, quite close to the northern kind of boundary of our reserve. And we're sitting on the banks of one of the main tributaries that enters into the Sand River a bit further down. So right where you guys were, but obviously quite a way up that main tributary. But yeah, we had quite a successful tracking mission this morning. We'll give Brandon some credit. He managed to find something here for us. So we are going to just drive over the lip here just out of view and see if these guys are still hanging about for us. Yeah, let's go. So yeah, beautiful scene here this afternoon, guys. Obviously with this lovely golden light just catching a few members of the Ottawa Pride. So one of our resident prides in the area here, probably the pride we see the most, specifically on the Ulusaba property and the kind of surrounding properties. And
some of you might know, but there definitely are usually a few more members here. We've got 5 of them at this stage. So we've got 3 juveniles, 1 sub-adult, and the mother of the juveniles. So there's been a bit of a split up here within the pride, not permanent. This does happen every now and again. And the result of our tracking this morning, we kind of pieced together the puzzle as we do quite frequently. We did find the remains of a buffalo kill, but it is more interesting than just that. Obviously, you guys can imagine finding the lions on a buffalo kill is one of the most fantastic things you can see out here. Very exciting, very aggressive, very intense. We weren't that lucky. We obviously saw the aftermath. Pretty much just the vertebral column and the big skull and the boss, those massive horns that were left over, surrounded by some hyenas and some vultures just picking off the scraps. But what we did see from the female getting up here, Brian pans over there, what we did see from the tracks was that of course we did have this pride evident there, but we might have also had a few other lions there. So we've been seeing, or not us personally, but some of our fellow guides to the east have been seeing a coalition of 3 young male lions. I think they were actually mentioned in our part 1 sofa safari this afternoon, and we did see evidence of them in the area also. So what we can kind of assume is that maybe the Ottawas managed to chase those younger males off of that kill, along with the Matimba, who's also missing, is our dominant male at this stage. But they must have chased them off and finished off the remains, and now they've left that area and come to have a drink of water. We are still missing the 2 older Ottawa lionesses. They were probably still closer to that kill site, maybe being a bit older, just hanging back. And we do have the Matimba, who's maybe about 200 meters off from us at this stage. He's lying up near a watering point, and still in some quite thick bush, so not really worth viewing. But as I said, beautiful to see them here in the kind of open clearing on the sand on the bank of this dry riverbed. You can see, I'm sure Ryan's focusing on him there at this stage, but the young male, who's the sub-adult, you can see quite a nice size, starting to get his mane growing through a little bit. We were actually chatting just before we started. He's generally one of the more alert individuals within the group here. So as I said, that his head goes down, but he normally is the one with his head up. He's listening all over the place. We had a vulture flying, or soaring rather, high above us a few minutes ago, and he actually focused in on that. So amazing to see all the little things that he's kind of looking out for and picking up on. But for the most part, just resting up. And once again, we always make the jokes and have a little laugh. You know, obviously sleeping as usual at this time. So it is one of those things, of course, paired with the full bellies, very inactive. Just before we got here, we did have them move maybe about 100 yards or so, only to settle up once again here in this on this bend of the river. Looking extremely comfortable, as you can see that youngster on his back there, paws in the air, easing some of the weight off of that belly, getting rid of some heat from that nice light underside.
At the same time catching the last rays of the sun before it starts getting chilly.
Yeah, that's true, eh? Yeah, now with the winter evenings, obviously beautiful midday temperatures, but as soon as that sun starts dipping away, it does cool off quite drastically, especially here around the lower lying kind of riverbeds. And that means we probably, or they probably won't stay here for too much longer after kind of sunset. They'll definitely look to move off, maybe even to go and relocate the other 2 members of the pride. Yeah, I think that might be their only motivation to move at this stage. Full bellies, they've had some water, maybe go and find the 2 remaining lionesses of the pride. And as usual, the Matimba, the old boy, generally gets left behind. He lags behind and takes him sometimes a few days even to catch up with the females, always hoping that they might have killed something and that he can capitalize on that and steal a bit of their food. So it's quite funny to see sometimes they do try and stay away from him. You know, we even see him vocalizing at times, trying to contact them, and the rest of the pride refuse to contact back to him and call back to him. So it just shows that they often prefer to be, you know, on their own, looking after their cubs and providing as much food as possible.
So just a question, how old is this young male that's on his back at the moment?
Yeah, so he's about 2 years old, guys. I think maybe just over 2 even. And that's generally when we see the younger males kind of start coming into their own. You know, we start seeing the mane grow through, as we mentioned. You can even see there on the back of his head, he's getting a nice little mohawk across the back. When he was sat up, you could see he's nice. He's got quite a nice prominent mane from his chest all the way up around his kind of jaw. So he's starting to become a male, and of course this is also a time that normally the dominant male within the pride will start noticing that too. So those are his kind of signals to start pushing out his young males within his pride. Usually his sons. This obviously is quite an interesting dynamic here, which we might have spoken about. The slightly older male is not in fact the Matimba's son. He's the predecessor's offspring. So yeah, but he should still treat him as his own son in the fact that he's going to kick him out or push him out at some stage soon here. So yeah, normally, as I say, those are the first little kind of signs that male lions start clocking out onto, and one day he's going to wake up and see his this young male as competition potentially, and then usually it's a violent ousting. It's not a very enjoyable experience for the young guy, and of course, you know, it's if you had to put a human emotion into it all, he might be quite distressed at first. He's been living with his pride for quite some time, with his mum and his aunties and his siblings or cousins, being provided for, and of course now one day the big male wakes up and chases him off into the sunset. So that's just how it goes, and then he'll probably move into a very much a nomadic state of his life. And what we may see happening is the 2 younger males, the 2 juveniles, part of the litter of 3, which is 2 males and 1 female. Those 2 younger males might even join up with this guy and move off together. So that would be quite interesting. We'd then see a new coalition of 3 lions forming, which would be quite amazing for you know, the future of lion dynamic elsewhere. And that's the thing, you know, at the end of the day they will move off, and they've got incredible genetic integrity. These are wild lions. They've got the ability to hunt, they've got the skills, and as I say, they've got an extremely kind of I guess you could say high class genetics. You know, they come from a very good bloodline, and they will then be able to take that elsewhere and enrich the genetic pool of another area. And that's the beauty of being in an open system like that, is that we constantly see that back and forth and that dynamic change. And it's the same as what we're seeing right now, mentioning those 3 young males who have now come into our area, testing the water a little bit, and who knows what might happen. We might see them overthrow the Matimba, maybe not, but we'll see how it goes.
So just quickly, for the guys that are asking the questions, Tom obviously had the 2 lions mistaken. They are laying right next to each other, so he thought I was on this guy, which he is incorrect in saying that he's just over 2 years of age. And then I was unfortunately on that guy, who you guys have said is 1 year and 8 months, which is also correct.
Okay.
So I do apologize for that. That was me on the camera. But the two boys together, the one on the right hand side is the older male. He's 6 to 7 months, around there somewhere, older than this male on the left hand side. Then another question for you guys. Do the dominant males take part in the hunt?
You know, it's quite an interesting thing. That it's common misconception in a lot of places in Africa, and that the females are the only ones that do the hunting. A male, when he comes into the pride, essentially is not part of the pride. He's the males, and I say that with an S, all right, males, because often we're talking about coalitions, groups of males, like what we're seeing here. This is a potential coalition that we have going here. This slightly older male with these two slightly younger males, they're his cousins. Now, when they get pushed out of the pride, presumably they're going to stay together, and that is a coalition. If they stay together, that is strength. If they break apart, that's going to be incredibly hard for a single male to take over territory, and that's I'm going to emphasize, they are out to take over territory. Now, depending on how powerful their coalition is, would then decide on the size of their territory. If they are a very dominant coalition and they happen to take over a very large territory, that would mean that they're going to have multiple prides within their territory. Now, the males, their role is to patrol that territory and keep other males out. Okay, obviously it's beneficial for them. They don't want other males coming in and killing their cubs, all right? And they want to get their genetics out. They want to mate with the females. They want to have the females with their youngsters. They got to protect that area from the likes of invading males who want to come in and steal or that territory or and kill those youngsters, so that they in turn will mate with the females. So the male's role is to patrol and protect the territory. However, males do often hunt, okay, especially when males are away from prides. They are looking as though they could be miles and miles away from prides, and in turn be following herds and buffalo, etc., because they've got to keep in good nick, and they're visiting in between the prides and whatnot. They will bump into a herd of buffalo, they'll take down a buffalo, etc. In my personal experience, I've witnessed a lot more kills from males taking down larger prey like buffaloes. And even with the pride, it's often the males, their telling weight and power, that is the difference in bringing down something that is much larger for the pride to enjoy. However, if the pride does happen to hunt, especially the females that have to hunt more regularly, because they often have youngsters, hungry youngsters, those bellies, those young growing males and this young growing female, they're always hungry. They're always begging for mom to go out and hunt and for auntie to go out and hunt. And the females in turn have to hunt a lot more, okay, regularly. And what happens there is that if males are within the vicinity and happen to across the pride that is taken down an impala or zebra, etc., they are more dominant. And of course, they're going to take the lion's share of the kill.
Basically, what Brandon was saying is that male lions do hunt.
They
They do hunt, yes. But it is interesting to see and to obviously talk about the very distinctive roles within the pride, and I feel like Brandon covered that very well, and that's exactly that. That's how it goes out, yeah.
I suppose one question we could tie in with that is the guys have also asked how long you guys, in your opinion, how long these guys will still stay with the pride.
There's a lot of debate around that.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, now it's a very unique situation. Of course, we have the very old Matimba who's been around for quite some time, and he could very easily succumb to old age and maybe die. And that would mean, of course, this would be a vacant territory. And now then, do we see these youngsters hanging around here and sticking around for longer than normal, or he could kick them out within the next few weeks or the next few days or next few months? So there's a lot of kind of play and uncertainty there, but you would imagine fairly soon maybe a couple of months ideally for the slightly younger males, just to let them find their feet a little bit more, but probably within the next kind of half a year at least, maybe let's say at max a year, that they might be hanging around here, but it's very difficult to say, and that's just one of those things. So yeah.
In the greater scheme of things, you actually want the young males to leave the pride and leave the area completely, and that's the purpose of these big males pushing these youngsters away. Because unfortunately, if the young males stay behind, there's a very good chance that there's going to be inbreeding. Brothers will be mating with sisters and moms and aunts, etc., if those young males are given an opportunity to stay within the area. So for that reason, it's actually quite important for these young males to be pushed up. Now, with the circumstance that we're looking at the moment, the situation, or the fact that we've got this very old male, and knocking on the door are 3 young males. Okay, 3 young males which are pushing his territory, pushing in closer and closer. And for me, looking at this situation, I hope that older male is able to keep these 3 males at bay for at least another 6 months. Okay, because that would give the more opportunity for these 3 young males to reach an age where they can actually be off on their own and hunt successfully, etc. But also, more importantly, is for this young female. Okay, unfortunately, one of the first things that male lions do when they come and take over an area, if they find prides with youngsters, okay, they will kill the youngsters. Because those youngsters, especially if their mothers are showing any kind of maternal care towards the youngsters, if those youngsters are unable to hunt for themselves, they will get killed off. All right, it's a normal circumstance for it. You don't want to wait for that female to come back into estrus. If you kill those youngsters within a very short space of time, that female her cycles kick over, and that you'll be able to then start mating and pass on your genetics instead of having to wait for somebody else's genetics to grow up. Okay, so for that reason, I really do hope that older male has the ability to keep this territory intact, or keep this area free of other young males for at least another 6 months.
And of course, if what we speculated about yesterday with this buffalo kill, if this pride did successfully manage to chase those 3 younger males off, obviously with the assistance of the Matimba, that means that maybe we do have a little bit more time here. So maybe the Matimba can in fact hold his own for a bit longer. And as Brandy says, that's the perfect kind of scenario for us. We want this young female to survive so that she can become a kind of breeding component within the Ottawa Pride, and it will help this pride hugely going forward if they have 2 young females who can breed rather than just the mother of the 3 younger individuals here. Obviously things are a little bit slower then, so if we have the 2 breeding females, this pride could actually flourish, and of course that's what we're hoping for. And only time and circumstance will tell.
And just for the guys asking about these 3 young males, we're not sure if they are still in the area. We can't confirm that, so we're not saying anything until we've got good evidence.
Exactly, yeah. As I mentioned, a very important word earlier, speculation. So we speculate for now. But we're just going on kind of a few signs that we've seen and a few things we've heard maybe from some of our anti-poaching and that kind. So we'll see. For now, these cubs and the pride is fairly safe if they stay nice and tucked away here in the western sector. A bit of a bumble.
Yeah. Maybe we'll take a
Drive up a
and
little,
see if
yeah.
it pops up.
Okay. Alright guys, so we're going to pop back up onto the crest here where that watering hole was. Maybe there's some chance that the Matimba has risen from his slumber. It's unlikely because he does like his sleep. So we'll see. We'll go have a look and see if there's anything else up over the hill.
pretty much this side. So we're happy with that. Absolutely go for it.
I'm just going to bump a little bit up here and then we'll go on with the stickers.
Right, we're still having a look, so if anything comes of that in the next sort of 5 or so, I'll let you know.
Alrighty, copy. Thanks, dude. So yeah, this little mud wallow on the right here, which you can see is extremely busy. You might even be able to make out just a plethora of tracks, all shapes and sizes here. So now going into winter, obviously we start seeing our surface water dwindling quite frequently, or quite rapidly rather. And it actually becomes quite a useful aid as far as tracking these animals. Of course, you know, these lions that we just viewed now had to move quite a distance to find any kind of decent water in the area, and this is where Brandon managed to actually walk into them this morning and find them just off to the kind of direction of the sun there, not too far off. And that's where the Matimba is now. He's right in this thick bush here. Not really any point in trying to view him, but we were obviously hoping that he might be down here having a bit of a drink. But yeah, soon this pan too will dry up, and as I say, you know, as we go with less and less water, we can use it more and more as a tool to track them down. Obviously paired with the actual tracks and certain other sounds and signs out there. So yeah, it does help us be a little bit more successful at times. But yeah, nothing here. So I think we're gonna keep driving up onto the crest, see if there's anything else in the next little way. They're flying from us.
Okay, you think they're flying from us?
That one. Maybe the second one. So another little indicator species there, guys. These crested franklins that have just gone bursting out of the brush there. Generally, if they do see a predator, especially, you know, a lion or leopard walking down on the ground, we often see them bursting out like that. So it could be a sign that maybe he has, you know, got up and stretched and given these little franklins the fright of their life. But as far as what we can see from here, not really. Not worth it, yeah. If he was walking out along this path here, it would be obviously perfect, but not going to happen at this stage. So two impala rams here. You can see one nice little clash there. We are coming to the end of our rutting season. Let's see, we might get another one here. You can see the almost body posturing and very edgy around one another. But what we're seeing here is obviously just a show of strength. It's pretty much an arm wrestle. If you have to analyze those horns closely, they've got almost a ribbing all the way up the horns. Obviously that provides some nice grip, and it means that they can lock horns. And as I say, it becomes more of an arm wrestle than outright trying to kill one another. Obviously mistakes do happen here and there, and we do see them impaling each other every now and again, and breaking their horns off completely. But at the end of the day, these two are competing, of course, for breeding rights, so competing for females within the area here. And as I mentioned before, we are kind of seeing it tapering off now, so we're not seeing nearly as much fighting. The rutting madness has kind of subsided a little bit. A lot of the testosterone is subsiding, and basically the job has been done. A lot of these females have been impregnated, and they're now go into a bit of a waiting game where of course it's about a 6 or 7 months gestation until we see the baby boom, which we've spoken about before. Males like this, quite interesting, will actually form a bit of an allegiance again, or alliance after this. The females all move off into breeding or lambing groups, and we see the males forming bachelor groups once again, immediately preparing for the following season. So we see a lot of sparring, of course a lot of feeding and getting into that ideal condition, almost like guys going to the gym, getting ready for beach season the following year. So quite interesting to see, and we visibly see them bulk up, and you see them just before that rutting period, and they are absolutely immaculate, beautiful, perfect coats, filled out, big massive necks. Whereas now we start seeing them, of course that condition is just kind of leaking away. So yeah, just like the sun dipping behind us there, and the end of the rutting season, I think we are going to say goodnight to you guys. Hope you have a good week going forward. Another nice Monday surf safari just to set you up for that week. Of course, don't forget to join us again the following week, and all of this will be posted on our Virgin Limited Edition Instagram page. So if you want to rewatch it, or if you want to let somebody else know that they should be watching us, you're welcome to do that. But yeah, from our side, once again, lovely week, and yeah, take it easy.
Have a lovely one, guys. See you next week.
Cool.